Hey pen friends, I hope you're all doing well. I feel like it's been a while since I've done a super casual journal slash stationery chat video where we just sit down and I tell you what's going on with my journals and stationery and just kind of give like a life update, but very journal and stationery specific, of course. So I thought we would just do a super informal video today and hang out together and talk all things journaling, stationery, analog, all that good stuff. I think today I'm going to talk a bit about kind of reflecting on how the quarter went in my journaling analog system, what I'm looking to do going into the next season of, I guess it would be for us in Canada, spring. And I think I also might touch on what's been going on since the end of last year around kind of my personal efforts to condense my stationery collection. And I think it would be cool to share a bit about what's been happening with that, because I don't think I've talked to you about that yet. So that's what we're gonna do today. I feel like this is very much a talking only video, so if you wanna put me on and make dinner or fold laundry, that's what I do when I watch videos like this, feel free to do that. And I will be like kind of showing things in my journals and stuff, of course, but it is mostly gonna be me talking to you today. And I have some fountain pen ink on my hand because I was playing with fountain pens. This is not what it probably looks like. It is brown fountain pen ink and nothing else, I promise you. But yeah, let's just chat. Make sure to grab a cup of tea, get cozy, get some water, stay hydrated, and yeah, let's just get right into it. So let's first talk about what happened over the first couple months in terms of my analog system. So for me, something I did to kind of mull over what happened over the past couple months and reflect on that was I actually made a list of the different journals that I used and planners that I used each month, how the purposes changed over each month, so I could see kind of each month how things were changing. And I also made a list of different experiments that I did over the first quarter, just so that I could see what changes were happening. It kind of reminded me of the exercise that I do when I'm budgeting to track my spending, where if I don't write down my spending, I have like no idea what I've bought, and I don't have like a good idea of how much has been spent. I kind of need that like written down, where I have like no concept of how much money has gone out the door that month, stuff like that. So I think actually I'm gonna keep like writing down at the end of each month, like what did I stay in, what am I using, just to kind of track those changes. My goal at the beginning of the year was I really wanted to stick with this traveler's notebook system and not go into too many different planners and books and just kind of focus on using what I have, maybe switching inserts here and there, but not going too crazy. And I think this first couple months definitely were some experiments that I did. The big two were ring planning and Stalogy. And I think, as a stationery lover, it's hard not to want to try new things and experiment. When I look back on that, I think about, we did the experimenting, we had the fun. Sometimes you just want to try something and see what it's like and not really commit to it, but still have that experience. And I think for me, where the experimenting was actually quite successful over the past quarter was I was able to experiment with ring planning and using a Stalogy notebook. And I was able to do both of those things with things I already had in my desk in my stationery collection. So I'm trying to think, but I don't believe so. No, I didn't buy anything to try those things and experiment with that stuff, which I think was really good because I think it allowed me to not feel guilt if I decided I didn't want to continue the experiment because I hadn't put money and invested in the project. Also, I realized after writing down what I did every month, I started the year with 3 traveler's notebooks. and I've ended the quarter with 2 traveler's notebooks. So I have reduced the number of books that I'm using, which is kind of funny, but I am still in traveler's notebooks, which I am taking as a win. I think also going forward, I don't want to be so rigid about having to stay in multiple books. Instead, I kind of like what I have going right now. I'm going to kind of keep working with that and keeping track of that and just see like how I want to adjust. And then I think if I do need to adjust, just trying to focus on doing it in small ways within the books without changing books completely. That said, I will say I really, really liked the change that I made this quarter with my analog system. The biggest one really, which was I had my 3rd TN, which was a passport as well, as my daily journal, and I did change that to my regular traveler's notebook. And that looks something like this. This page. Not that page, actually. That has my full name on it. This page. So instead of having like 1 page per day, I just kind of did paragraphs per day. And this book is becoming so precious to me. Not only does it have my trip in here, but the format is really easy to maintain. I'm just mostly writing and sticking stuff in and not overcomplicating it, which tends to work best for me when it comes to sticking with things and having a good journaling system. And I also just like how, because I'm not doing a page a day, I find that, how do I describe this? I find that it works well for how much ephemera and photos I take and want to document in my journal. I feel like it's a nice balance between pages with mostly writing and then pages with kind of tickets and images, and then having, I'm just gonna cover this slightly, and then having like more writing and taping things in, and it's super organic and not, you know, super time consuming. And for how I like to journal, I feel like it's working quite well. And I've found that it's very effective for me in just like keeping up the habit, documenting my days. And I also am just really enjoying adding to this book. Every page that I add feels very exciting, and I don't know, I'm like constantly flipping through this guide, looking at it, and it's just like a really nice book to look at, which is something that I said at the beginning of the year I wanted to focus on. I wanted to actually like document my days in a way that I would enjoy looking at them, and I think this is doing a great job of that. So I have been really, really liking this, and I'm very happy with this change. The nice thing about this too is in terms of like changing, I finished the book in this passport traveler's notebook when I was memory keeping, and then I had one of these grid inserts that I purchased previously, so it was quite easy for me to change over into it. The biggest commitment right now has really been taking the time to backfill, because I started this insert when I started my trip, and I've decided to continue it into the year. So I have filled out up until the end of February. So I've been backfilling January, February. I am now working on March, and then I'll do some of April until I'm caught up. But that has kind of been like the biggest time commitment, but it actually has been really fun looking back on how I spent those days, and I have all of them documented. So it's quite easy to fill in, but it's been kind of a fun project, and I've kind of taken my time with it. I am not like rushing to backfill as soon as possible. I'm just kind of journaling when I feel like it, which is also really nice. Not journaling every day, I think works quite well for me. Instead of like forcing, you know, like a daily regimen, I've been really liking just doing it when I feel like it and letting it kind of flow more organically. So that was the biggest change that happened, and I'm quite happy with the outcome of it. And I also like that I'm not filling in this book too fast. So I will have, let's see, like maybe more than 3/4 of the book for the rest of the year. And I think I can probably fit a good 6 months in one book, which I think is also nice, but we'll see. I'm gonna fill it out, and when I'm done, I'm gonna move on to the next book and we're just gonna kind of go with the flow on that one. And yeah, besides that big change, I would say the quarter went quite well. I started with 3 traveler's notebooks. I ended with 2 traveler's notebooks. I'm kind of viewing the covers that I do have as covers, so I can change them in and out and swap them when I want and still kind of keep the same system inside to create variety, which is working. I also changed my bullet journal a lot. I've kind of shifted it from being a bullet journal to being less of a bullet journal. I originally had 2 books in my bullet journal, an annual book and then a book for monthlies and dailies and weeklies. And now I kind of have 1 book as my like weekly calendar, which is just the undated insert by Traveler's Company. And then I have a second book, which is my task list. So I've kind of split the books differently now, instead of it being based on, I guess, reference. So like long-term stuff in the annual book versus short-term stuff in the monthly, daily, weekly section book. Instead, now it's like 1 book is my calendar. This is what's going on. These are the events. And then 1 book is what do I need to do on those days. So that's also been working really, really well. I've been really liking that. I'm actually now finished this book because I kind of had experimented with different things at the front of this one, so it wasn't completely empty. So I did pick up a insert from Jet Pens when I was ordering some other stuff. So I will set this up and start using it. Cancer and reproductive harm. Right, okay, moving on. Hopefully that's not related to the notebook. And I will be setting that up, but yeah, that's been going really well as well. The only change I'm really thinking of making going into quarter 2 is previously and currently I've been using this field notes book for my daily to-do list, which I will not show you because it's like very censored. I have like 2 pages left. This is a 5mm grid, which I find for my writing can be a bit large for the type of task planning that I like to do, which is mainly using these things called Alistair method lists. It's essentially a way of like using columns to schedule tasks, and I've done it since I started bullet journaling, and it's kind of my thing. It's something that works really, really well for me, and I haven't been doing that in this book because when you make a task list like that, it takes up so much of the page, you barely have any room to write the task, which defeats the purpose slightly. So I am thinking when I finish this book, I will use a good Inkpressions book that I have from when I was using these as bullet journals. So I have some of these in my collection. They are, I'll turn down the exposure so you can see there. They are 64 GSM cream Tomoe River paper with 4mm grid and squared corners. All of that is custom, so you have to ask the seller for it, but these are perfect for Alistair method lists. They tend to look like this. So it's, you get like most of the column for writing the task, which I really like, versus with 5mm grid, it's kind of like half and half or more than half, and then you're kind of having to squish things in. So I think I will use this for my task list so that I can begin to go back to breaking down my tasks every week, every month, every quarter, because I do find that really helpful. So I think I'm gonna move into this book next after I'm done this book. Also, I feel like I've just been really enjoying and noticing that with this system, I am, instead of mid-system, mid-book, thinking of making a change and then going into a different thing, as I'm finishing things, that's when I evaluate if I want to tweak anything. So as I'm finishing a field notes, then I'm thinking, okay, do I want to maybe use a different type of notebook next? And I feel like that's kind of the natural way to do things, the natural way to make tweaks and changes, but that's been really nice too. So I'm gonna continue kind of tweaking as I finish books versus jumping into changes mid-book as much as I can. I think if something doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then you move. But yeah, that's also just been really nice, and it's been good to just be kind of settled in these books. And I feel like for me, this has been pretty good compared to last year in terms of sticking with the system. I am curious to see if I do like any more experiments going forward, and we're just gonna see what happens. I think there's no need to put pressure on ourselves for that, but I have noticed that in terms of kind of the experimenting and moving notebooks and shifting things, I've been a little more steady this year, which I've really liked, and it's nice to just kind of use what you have. I feel like part of where I've kind of chilled out in that sense is I have not been using social media as much and going on Instagram specifically, mostly because I feel like whenever I go on Instagram, I see stuff that isn't the people I follow. And now, like, because I send my siblings memes, half of the things I see on Instagram are like memes, which is nice, but like not the most like useful most of the time. So it's not really like a place where I now look at what people are doing in terms of journaling and stationery. I've actually been enjoying a lot more reading blogs about journaling and stationery and like seeing that kind of written word with like photos versus reels and videos. So I think that's also contributed to it, but who knows? Who knows? That's just speculation. But yeah, that's how kind of the quarter has been going. Started with 3 books, now in 2 books. Passport Traveler's Notebook as a planner. Regular Traveler's Notebook for my life archives, and I also do have my commonplace insert. Not in here right now, just because it's kind of a lot to put it in the same book and keep it in here, so I just kind of have it somewhere on the desk. It's over there, I promise. And yeah, I am excited for the upcoming months, and I am so excited to keep filling out this book. It has been so fun to fill up this journal. So yeah, that's it in terms of what's been going on. Oh, I will share actually, I have a potential pen update. So many of you know I've used this pen, which is the Uniball 1F with a Sarasa brown gray 0.5mm gel refill for like, I feel like almost a year now. It's been a while. I don't know why, but recently I've just been finding holding this pen and writing with it has been very difficult. It just doesn't feel right in my hand. I don't know, my handwriting feels funky. It feels uncomfortable. It's not really working anymore. So I have actually been reaching for this version of the Uniball 1 pen. This is the Uniball 1P, which is, I'm assuming, for petite, because compared to the F, it's a lot shorter and a lot thicker. And this has been a lot more comfortable in my hand to write with. And it just clicks like that. I don't know why I demonstrated that, but this has been really nice. So I have been kind of using this right now instead of the green one, which I usually use. But yeah, this has been kind of the pen of choice at the moment. Also with the Sarasa brown gray refill, because that is the refill I love and adore and cherish. And that is the pen I've been using. So wild, crazy pen update, because I don't think I've switched my pen in like a solid 8 months. So yeah, we're liking this kind of chunkier crayon sized pen right now. So that's kind of cool. Let's see. I think that's kind of all I wanted to talk to you about in terms of the update. Maybe now I will talk about what's been going on with my stationery collection / maybe I'll touch briefly on the discourse on consumerism in the journaling and planning community, because that's been a really big topic lately. So if you've been on YouTube since, I want to say, fall of last year, there's been definitely, in my homepage at least, a lot more videos around planner consumerism. We need to talk about planner consumerism. Those kind of titles. It's interesting, actually, now that I say last fall, I'm almost realizing Cindy, I'll put her name up here with the power of editing. She has done videos on consumerism and how it relates to stationery for years now. And I've always really enjoyed her talks. I find that for me, hearing about consumerism relating to hobbies I really enjoy is a good kind of way for me to get inspired to reflect more on my spending and reflect more on what I have and what I use and what I own. So I find those kinds of videos a very positive thing. I find that they tend to have positive effects for me in terms of intentional spending and just things we have in general. I will say I've definitely noticed there are folks who take it maybe in a more negative direction and use it as an opportunity to call out people. And, I get that. You're always going to have folks who are going to think you have too much of something or it's, excessive. And of course, they're subject to their own thoughts and you have to decide for yourself what you think and what is enough for you. But since this year, I have been trying to kind of take a pause on purchasing journaling supplies. I would not say the word low buy or no buy, more just like mindful spending and just kind of being more aware of the things I am buying. I did a no buy in February, which was really, really nice and a great reset. And after that, I really started looking at the stationery I had and downsizing because I noticed that there was a lot of things in my collection that I honestly just didn't use anymore. I used maybe a year ago or a couple months ago, but now don't use at all. And I've started to kind of whittle down what I have. As of right now, maybe I'll include some like B-roll so you can kind of see the state of the nation. Because previously I had multiple drawers and an IKEA unit for my stationery and journaling supplies, and I've kind of cut it down since then. I don't know what my end goal is in terms of like size of collection and what I'm trying to go for. I have some ideas in my mind, and part of me, because I can be a bit of an extremist, is like, I want to get my stationery down to like one classic-y box. If you've seen the boxes, they're like really luxurious wood boxes. Part of me is like, I want to get my collection down so streamlined that I can like fit everything in that box, and then purchasing the box will be like, I don't know, is that like consumerism? Like rewarding yourself for limiting your stuff by buying more stuff? I don't know, but that was something in my mind. I was like, maybe having the box and containing things. Part of me is like, that might be like a little aggressive because that is maybe a little too small for how much I want to keep. But it's something I'm kind of working on. I've done a pretty good job right now of limiting and cutting down on my stamps. I think I could maybe cut down a little more, but I want to see when I finish my traveler's notebooks how I want to kind of, if I want to decorate the outside with stamps and what I want to do with them there. So I'm kind of waiting to see if I might use them more in that kind of activity once I get around to it. And then I've been working on downsizing my washi tape. I've found that for me, I have a very specific brand of washi tape I like, which is Yohaku. And I don't really use my other washi tape too much, save for a couple PET tapes that I really like. So I've been kind of looking at my washi tape collection over the past couple months and wondering if I want to just like really downsize it from a bunch of tapes that I don't use to just my Yohaku collection and a couple PET tapes. So what I've done is I've actually separated them. I've moved the washis that I'm thinking about to a whole nother drawer to see if I go into that drawer and grab them. That's kind of what I do with clothing as well, actually. I will put clothes that I'm thinking of letting go of in a box under my bed, and I essentially look out for if I realize I want to wear that thing, if I go under my bed and grab it, or do I like completely forget that it exists for like 3 months. And then at that point, I'm like, okay, probably safe to let this one go. So I'm kind of taking that approach with my stationery. And I have decluttered quite a few things. There's still more I want to do. I want to kind of, again, just like get things to a little more of a stripped down, streamlined place. I don't think I really want nor need a ton of stationery anymore. I think in the past couple of years I've realized the way I like to plan and journal is quite simplified. I do use stamps and washi tape and pens, but a lot of the stuff I put in my notebooks is photos that I've taken, ephemera that I've collected, very much like external things that I bring in from my travels. So I definitely want like things to add to that, like my stamps and stickers and washi, but I think I want it to be a little more condensed because I feel like right now it's a bit overwhelming and I don't think I would ever be able to use all of it, nor do I use all of it. So that's what I've been working on. I haven't really mentioned it because I feel like it's kind of a personal project that you have to kind of work through yourself and figure out yourself, and it's a very personal process. I also don't want folks to feel like they should be doing this as well necessarily. And I think it's kind of like you got to kind of evaluate what works for you and evaluate your collection and what you have and what's good in terms of what you're comfortable with. But that's kind of what I've been working on. I think what I will do is maybe once I've kind of gotten my stationery collection down to a manageable size, maybe then I'll share kind of what I've decided to keep, why I've decided to keep it, and maybe talk about some things that I did to kind of get to that point. And then I think going forward after I get to that point, I think just like my closet, I like to do these what I call quarterly declutters, where every couple months or maybe every 6 months, depending on the season, I will go through my closet and I will kind of evaluate my clothes. Are there things I want to get rid of that I can let go of immediately? Things that I want to put in the box under the bed to see if I want to let them go and I'm not maybe ready yet to. And then what things do I want to keep? What things do I want to bring in? And I'm also thinking about maybe starting if I want to bring something into my collection, having a set amount of space for it so that if I want to bring something in, if I don't have room for it, what do I want to maybe let go of to make space for that thing in my set of drawers or box or whatever I want to keep my stationery in. So yeah, those are just some things I've been thinking about in terms of my stationery consumerism with the hobby, how I'm thinking of spending and tracking those things, and just kind of what I've been thinking about in terms of that. So if you're thinking of kind of spending intentionally, I don't know, maybe some of these things are helpful to you. Maybe you're like an expert when it comes to intentional spending and you're like, oh please, I've got this like under control. I don't need to hear any of this. I don't know, but yeah, that's what I've been thinking about. I really want to whittle down my collection, but also display and be able to look at my collection more. The way I have my collection right now, it's hidden in drawers, which as someone who doesn't see things forgets about them, I forget about the things, even if it's things I really like to use. So I think once I get down to a point where I'm really happy with the amount I have, I want to be able to store it in a way that I can easily see and access things so I can journal more effectively and use the things I have and incorporate them into my books better. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on in my head with that. That's kind of, I think, like the major topic besides my journal update I wanted to talk to you about today. I think besides that, we have had a pretty long chat. I think it's been almost half an hour now, so I imagine whatever you're drinking is probably almost gone. I'm gonna get some water myself because the throat is getting pretty dry, but if you're still here, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed hanging out today and chatting all things stationery, and I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great week. And besides that, I will see you in the next video.